Well, it's something we've heard a couple of times today at the awards ceremony, that there is a distinction between sort of tactics and a more fully formed social strategy. You know, Doritos has been doing social media for a long while, but to be frank, often in the past it has been slightly haphazard and ungoverned. Some stuff has worked really well, some stuff not so much. So we felt it important to develop a more sort of strategic way of thinking about our whole social offering. So we did develop principles like, you know, no conversation without content. We found a way as well to optimize every sort of tweet and Facebook post that we put out there. So everything we put out there, we were able to ascertain how shared it was in the first 3 hours of its life. If it reached a benchmark that we gave it, then we'd put more effort and focus behind those particular bits of content and make sure they were amplified further, because they were content which seemed to be worthy of people's attention. So we had you know, a strategy which contained tactics, but you know, added up to more than the sum of its parts, really.
I think it was very important to make a distinction between the social tactics and the social strategies. This is not just about putting sharing buttons on our campaigns. I mean, social is a strategy, social by design. And I think the winners really brought that to the surface in a really big day.
Absolutely. I mean, it's fundamentally different, I think. I think social media is a useful collective term, I suppose, for a bunch of media channels that are defined in a certain way because they are big social spaces that people hang out in. But it is absolutely not the same thing as social strategy. I think it was defined quite well in this session. I think, you know, social strategy is a strategy that it kind of somehow has kind of conversational sharing or into people behaviour kind of built into it, I suppose. And it's a much bigger thing than Facebook or Twitter. And I think, as some of the case studies showed, you can theoretically have social strategy without any social media in it whatsoever. I mean, I think some of the kind of more word of mouth strategies that were used. You know, you can easily imagine kind of the Mizuno case study, for example, existing without any social media, really, because it was about sending out stuff to people that they could kind of then talk to other people about. And obviously digital was there, because digital is hard to avoid digital in this world, but I think the two are very different, yeah.
You know, I'd say sort of 10 years, not even 6 years ago, people saw search, brands saw search as something that needed its own strategy, you know, its own team that would think about it, you know, a sort of task force to deliver, you know, to win in search around the world. And now search is a hygiene element in what we do. You know, if we're not doing it right, you know, there's a problem. And so what's brilliant about the moment that we're in is I think clients and agencies alike are embracing this changing tide in media. And I mean, if you look back 50 years, it's exactly the same, you know, when the TV came and the radio went and things like that. So it's just becoming much more part of our vernacular and planning process than it was, I would say, a few years ago. And the work that we do on Smirnoff is inextricably rooted in social, because our brand is a social brand. And, you know, whatever we do in the real world socially, we like to replicate and add value in the digital world, in the you know, the virtual world socially. So it's a really important part of our planning process and how we bring our ideas to our consumers.
I mean, you know, we're a word of mouth agency, and there's a big reason we don't call ourselves a social media agency, because it's kind of like having a fax machine agency or a pen and paper agency. You know, it is a tool. And so I would much rather us be judging and rewarding strategies that are social, that are inherently conversational, that are about relationships, that are about encouraging deep emotion and deep behaviours. But then, of course, the definition of social strategy is as much up to each person as anything. You know, it's a really tricky thing. To me, strategy implies something that goes beyond a campaign, implies something that is bedded deep within the company and is kind of part of their approach of how they see themselves and how they approach their consumers and their suppliers and their partners and whoever else it might be. So, you know, it's very tricky because you can interpret it however you want, really. But I kind of do like the move away from just looking at platforms and looking instead at, so, you know, how is this strategy encouraging your consumers and internally your company to be social, wherever that might be, on a billboard, in a TV ad, on a Twitter feed.